Before I go to actually make this into a printable map as a PDF, like I said I was going to in the last video, I want to put labels. Right now, this is Vinyl Haven right here. This is the town of Vinyl Haven, and this is the town of North Haven. And the township actually has multiple islands in that town, even though the big island is really Vinyl Haven, and this kind of smaller island is actually North Haven. These other little tiny islands are part of that town. So if I just went straight to islands and said label, because I'd like to have these labels on this layer, and I right click and I go to properties and I go to labels, right under style. Here's the style where we've been hanging out. I go down to labels and I say show labels for this layer, because I'd like to have labels on my map. And I can label these geometries, or kind of these geographies, with any one of my attributes, but probably the name is going to make the most sense, right? So if I just say, okay, show labels for this layer, label with town, and I just say okay, what you're going to see, and it's going to look a little crazy, is that every single island is labeled Vinyl Haven, Vinyl Haven, Vinyl Haven, Vinyl Haven. They're not all the island of Vinyl Haven. They're part of the town of Vinyl Haven, right? And I hope this makes sense, because if I open up this attribute table, and let's just try clicking any one of these. So I don't know if you can tell, but this is its own individual island. But in the attribute table, if I bring that to the top, this is my special move selection to top here. It has its own record, because let me just go back down to where the V's are in Vinyl Haven here. Even though Vinyl Haven's a town, it's one town, there's multiple islands. So you get that now. I'm just going to show you that if we want to turn this all into one object, see right now it's many objects. If we want to turn it into one object, we're going to use a tool called dissolve. And I'm going to run the tool dissolve so that instead of getting all of these different selections, if I select them kind of individually, I could click on any one of these islands, and all of them that have the attribute of Vinyl Haven will be selected. So dissolve is kind of confusing, but what it does is it collapses in the attribute table kind of every individual record into one record. So I'm going to dissolve the islands file by town. And so every single island it's not going to change the shape of any of the islands, but they'll all be recorded kind of at once as one record by town. So that if I click here on Isle Ho, for instance, all of these Isle Ho labeled things will all be selected at once. And that will let me see, oh yeah, well that's all one town. So I'm going to shut these labels off because it's bogging down my computer a little bit. Go back to properties. I'm going to say no labels, say okay. And dissolve can take a long time to run, so just be conscious of that. Your computer, it may take you 10 minutes to run it, but we're going to go ahead and try. So I go up to vector, and dissolve is a geoprocessing tool. We'll get to play with some of these as the weeks go on, but dissolve, this is the one you want to do right now. So dissolve, we're going to dissolve the islands, and we're going to use only the selected features. Oh, sorry, no, we're going to click that off. We want to do the whole layer. If I hadn't done that, then it would only dissolve that. So let me clear the selection anyway, and we'll start over. That's the clear selection tool. So I go vector, geoprocessing, dissolve, and islands. I'm going to dissolve by town. And I'm going to call this, let's see here. I got to go back to my desktop here. There it is. My workshop 1 folder. I'm going to call this islands by town. And remember, I'm using underscores, no spaces allowed. Say save, and I'm going to say okay. and it looks like it's going pretty fast. But I'll see you at the other side. So I'm gonna close this here, and you might say, oh well, it didn't work. Look, there's still lines through MDI, Mount Desert Island. And that's because there are multiple towns on Mount Desert Island. So these lines are still there because each individual town still kind of maintains its integrity. So now, though, I hope you can see that if I go back here and I have my islands by town selected and I click that, all of Vinyl Haven is selected now. Same with North Haven and Isla Ho. And it's kind of cool, I think, actually. I kind of like it better this way. It kind of helps me see. I could even symbolize them by town. Maybe I'll go ahead and do that. I go up to, let's clear the selection. I'm going to go to Islands by Town. I'm going to go to Properties. And I can go to Style, right? And instead of doing a single symbol for all the islands, I could do a categorized symbol, which is kind of cool. Go to Categorized. And I'm going to categorize by town. And if I say categorize by town, I can say classify and say OK or apply. And now it changes the color of all of them depending on which islands are included in which town. I think that's pretty cool. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to get rid of that border again because I don't really like that border very much. So I go to symbol and I'm going to change the simple fill and just kind of get rid of the no pen. I know I'm going kind of fast, but you just have to click around and explore. It's easy to get stuck and be like, oh, where did that go? Well, you have to go to simple fill instead of the regular fill and then kind of hit the no pen there. You'll figure it out, I hope. So I hit apply. There they go. Zoom out a little bit. And it looks it looks kind of like an Easter egg, a little funny. But I'm okay with that. I'm going to do one more stylish thing here. I'm going to, because I don't like these colors very much, but I don't want to fuss around, I just want them to be a little darker. I'm going to make my base islands layer dark. Simple fill. I'm going to make this like that. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to make this top layer transparent. If you're not following along, it's okay. Don't worry about it. This is just me being kind of deciding to do things. This is what cartography is. It's fussing around and coming up with ideas and seeing if they work. So I'm going to put the layer transparency around 50. Apply. I don't know if you saw that, but it just made them all darker so that they show up better. So I think that's pretty cool. That's nice. The other thing I'm going to decide to do for my symbology is I'm going to make the ocean opaque. I don't really want to see the bathymetry. I think it's confusing. So I'm going to go back into my topography and I'm going to open up my properties dialog for my land, my ocean land, my kind of ocean land raster. And go to style, and I want to keep the land transparent the way it is so that I can see kind of through it. But to do this, I'm going to have to go here and I'm going to say, nope, it's going to be completely opaque. And I say apply, and then you'll be like, oh, that's gross. I don't like that. But I'm going to tell you it's okay because now I'm going to go to the individual colors of each category, 0, not land, and 1 land. And I'm going to change the transparency on each of those. So the land, I'm going to double click that. And under the colors dialog, there's this setting opacity. And I'm going to set that back here so that it kind of, it will shine through. The topography will shine through. So I go OK and apply. And there it is. It's shining through. But for this ocean, I want to keep it kind of opaque so that I can't see the bathymetry underneath because I think that's a little funny. But the color's too strong. I think the color is too loud. So I want to make it very kind of desaturated and light so that I can see the islands. So now I'm going to go like way up here and just see what it does. So I've just desaturated it like quite a bit. Let's just see what that does. Okay, apply. Looks kind of gross, actually. So this is the problem with cartography, is you never know when to stop. I'm gonna do one more adjustment. I like my kind of without. I actually do like my land and water. I kind of like that dead tone, but the colors of these islands just drive me insane. I really don't like them. So I'm gonna go back to my islands by town, and I think I'm just gonna try some random colors. Let's just see what happens. Apply. Yeah, it's pretty gross. Maybe I can just I'm just going to get rid of that layer transparency and see if the full value colors look better. That looks better, I think. A little bit, maybe. You can play around with it. I might try random colors again. Just kind of. Just try to mess around. That's not too bad. It's not really that great, but we need to move on. So now I can use my labels and say show labels for this layer and make them the town. And now I'm not going to get thousands of labels. I'm just going to get one label per feature. I hope you saw how the dissolve worked, and it kind of changed the attribute table. So now I say town. I'm going to say OK, and there, I've got one label per town, island town. So that's pretty cool. If you wanted to see the comparison between each of these attribute tables, go ahead and open them up. This attribute table was dissolved, so now there's only one record per town, and all of the geometries are maintained, but they're stored in one record instead of a different record for every island. So kind of a long, redundant video, but not as short as I was hoping. But I hope you kind of see what we did there. Go ahead and watch it again if it's confusing, and we'll go on to the last video.